One of the great personalities of the musical scene is Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones, not only a performer, he's a composer, he's a promoter, he's an arranger, and he does all kinds of things. Quincy Jones has also got this uncanny ability to bring together all kinds of great artists, to pool their wonderful talents together and to be able to put together a marvelous piece of musical composition. Of course, he was most famous for the song "We Are the World," in which he brought the top performing artists of that time together to be able to sing this composition that he brought together. And he would give one a little part here, one a little part there, one a small phrase there. It was amazing that all of these people who are great musicians would come together and do this. Now, how did he do it? Well, the way he did it was that he had a sign that was posted on the entrance to the recording studio. And the sign read, "Check your ego at the door." Sometimes I think that that's a sign that needs to be posted over the door of the church. Check your ego at the door. No need for superstars here, because we're all on the same team. No need for attitudes of arrogance or importance or presumptuousness. The baby doesn't like this part of the sermon, obviously. No need for that sort of egotism that we sometimes see in people, because we're all working together for the kingdom of God. Jesus was aware of this, and this is why Jesus was always so upset when he saw this kind of pompous and presumptuous attitude displayed by the good religious people of his day. I want to tell you something, that Jesus had more problems with religious people than he did with anybody else. And he would see this and it would bother him. And so one of his most important parables, and also one of his most poignant kind of statements, was geared towards this rather pompousness and haughtiness that he saw in these religious people, as well as his attitude, which was that if you are arrogant, your arrogance is going to bring you down in life. Jesus was invited. This is when this statement that Jesus makes was given. He was invited to the home of a wealthy Pharisee. And Jesus was not the only one who was invited to this dinner party. There were other prominent people there. There were lawyers there. There were teachers of the law, that is, the rabbis, and there were high prominent officials. And it kind of made Jesus laugh whenever he saw how these individuals were going around promoting themselves. And he remembered how it was that whenever they would go to the synagogue, they would always want to sit in the most prominent places. And then whenever they would attend a public event, they would always want to be in the most prominent position. And he even kind of giggled at the way they would scramble at a banquet for the most important seats at the dinner table, which were always the seat closest to the host. And so this is what prompts him to say this. He says, look at the screen. When you are invited to a feast, don't rush in and sit down in a place of honor, lest you be called down in front of everyone and embarrassed, but rather give way to others. It is always better to be called up than to be called down. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Now, the way he's saying this, it's almost as though this is what was exactly what happened at this dinner party. And that is, Jesus was present there. Now, Jesus wouldn't seek the place of honor, even though he was the guest of honor. He wouldn't seek the place of honor. Jesus, in his humility, would take the least of the important seats. He would be down at the very end of the table. And so everybody else was scrambling to get to sit by the host, the place of honor, to show everybody how important they were. And so the host then made the person sitting next to him go down to where Jesus was sitting so that Jesus could come up. The point of this is very clear. It is the humble attitude that always wins. It is the humble, Christ-like spirit that is the one that wins with boldness in life. In other words, we have to check our egos at the door. Now, let me bring this closer to home and how it affects us day by day. First of all, if you want to serve the church, then you've got to check your ego at the door. Elie Wiesel wrote in Parade magazine about this ancient story, which is still important today. I want to read it to you. A man is on a boat, and he's not alone, but he acts as if he were. One night, without warning, he suddenly begins to cut a hole under his seat. The other people on the boat shout and shriek at him, "What on earth are you doing? Have you gone mad? Do you want us all to sink? Are you trying to destroy us?" Calmly, the man answers, "I don't understand what you want. What I am doing is none of your business. I paid my way. I'm not cutting under your seat, so leave me alone." And then Wiesel says, what the fanatic and the egotist will not accept, but what you and I cannot forget, is that all of us are in the same boat. If you want to serve the church, my beloved, you have to check your ego at the door and join the team. That is, you can't just go out there and do your own thing, but instead we must see ourselves as God's servant, and we're all in this together. There was a wonderful Yugoslavian story about these 4 angels that witnessed the creation. And the first angel observed God's handiwork in awe, and he said to God, he said, "Lord, your creation is magnificent. How did you do it?" Well, that's the worldview of the scientist. The second angel looked at it and said, "Lord, your creation is magnificent. Why did you do it?" That is the worldview of the philosopher. The third angel looked at it and said, "Lord, your creation is magnificent. Can I have it?" Which is the worldview of the materialist. And the fourth angel looked at it and said, "Lord, your creation is magnificent. What can I do to help?" That is the worldview of God's family. And you see, my beloved, as we accept Christ in the church and as we come to realize what Christ is doing for us, we can't help but ask that question. Lord, what do you want me to do? Lord, how can I be a part of the team? Lord, what can I do to serve you? How can I be of use to you? When we come to the knowledge of the extent of God's love for us and all that God has provided us, and most importantly, the cross of Jesus Christ, and we put ourselves out there in humility, then God is able to use us. We see this all through the Bible. There's Moses, he sees this burning bush, and there's the presence of God. And before he knows it, Moses is headed off to Egypt to let the children of Israel free from captivity. Isaiah saw God high and lifted up in the temple. And it was a tumultuous time for God's people, and God needed a prophet. And Isaiah raises his hand and he says, "Here I am, Lord. Send me." Peter, James, and John and Andrew, they see Jesus coming along the shore. They recognize him as a powerful man of God, and they go and they bow down before him. And Jesus lifts them up and says, "I will make you fishers of men." You see, before anything was done, they humbled themselves. All of these men humbled themselves so that then God could begin His great work through them. This is how it works, my beloved. We have to come in humility before God, and when we do, then God can do great things in and through us. So, the point is clear. If you want to serve the church, then check your ego at the door. And second, if you want to serve others, you need to check your ego at the door. If we reach out in a spirit of pride and arrogance, or if we reach out in sort of a patronizing way to try to help people, then we're not really helping them at all. Real help comes in a spirit of empathy and compassion and grace towards those that we are reaching out to help. It comes out of a spirit of humility where we've checked our egos at the door and realized that these are God's children. When I was thinking about this point, I thought about my mother. My mother was the most humble person that you would ever meet. Very humble, very meek, very empathetic. She was ahead of her time in terms of the social gospel. And that is that the work of Christ has to move beyond the four walls of the church out into the community. I remember many times she was the president of her women's group there at the church we were going to, the Grace Methodist Church in Sanford. And they saw the need that existed out into the migrant camps, when the migrant workers would be coming for the harvest that would be taking place all around there in Sanford and Seminole County. And I want to tell you something, the conditions of those camps were absolutely horrendous. They were nothing more than shacks. And some of them didn't even have floors to them. It was just dirt. And my mother's heart really went out to these poor individuals. And so she got her women's group to gather up food and clothing and household supplies and baby food and formula. And she would pack that up. We had a station wagon at the time, and she would pack that thing up full. And then she would take me along with her, and we would go to these migrant camps. And my mother would give out all of these items that she had collected. But she didn't just give them out and leave. It was not an impersonal effort. She stayed and talked with them, and she got to know them. They knew her by name. She knew them by name. She knew their children. She knew what was going on in their families. She could see somebody and she would say, "Oh, tell me about Lucy. How is she doing today?" Or, "Tell me about Aaron. Is he still sick? What can we do to help him?" She knew those names. And they used to love to see my mother come, not because she was giving out stuff, but simply because she cared. And what a powerful witness that was. You see, my beloved, caring, serving other people is more than just giving stuff. It's also giving yourself. It's sad that it takes us so long to come to the realization that every single one of us are God's child. Just that some of us are a little more fortunate than others. But if we take that sense of, look at what I've accomplished in life, and now I'm going to give it to you. If we take that kind of attitude, we're not really helping at all. Because what people need is to know that somebody truly cares about them and loves them. And this only comes when we check the ego at the door. And we come to them in the Spirit of Jesus Christ, who never met an unimportant person. So if you want to serve others, then check the ego at the door. And then finally this, if you want to live in the Spirit of Christ, then you've got to check the ego at the door. Let's do a little spiritual exercise this morning. I want you to think of the person who most exemplifies Christ to you, or maybe they've passed away, who most symbolize the Spirit of Christ. Think of the person that when you see them in your mind's eye, you think to yourself, this person was a true servant of God. I want you to get them pictured in your mind and silently say their name. And then I want you to think about what it was about them that differentiated them from everybody else that you knew. What quality was it about them that made them so Christ-like? And I bet that quality will be the spirit of humility. They didn't think of themselves as superstars, but they saw themselves as seeking to be patient and kind and good and loving towards all God's children. Because at some point in their life, they learned the lesson that you have to check your ego at the door and be God's servant as a part of God's family. Have you heard the story about the three trees? It's a children's story. There were these three trees that were in the forest, and they were talking to each other. And they were talking about their futures. And the first tree said that, I want to be a cradle. I want to be a cradle so I can live forever, because I will then forever nestle babies in my cradle. I will be there for life, for the beginning of life for these babies. That's what I want to be. The second tree said, well, I want to be a mighty ship. And I want to sail the seas. And I want to be able to transport goods from one town on the shore to another town on the shore. I want to be a big ship that sails the seas. And the third tree said, well, I just want to stay right here and grow bigger and bigger and bigger and just ever point to heaven and point to the God above who loves us. So one wanted to be a cradle, One wanted to be a ship, and one wanted to stay where it was and point to heaven. The next day, a woodsman comes along and chops down all 3 trees. And with that, there go their dreams. The first tree, instead of being a cradle, ends up being a feeding trough. It's fashioned into an animal's feeding trough. But it was purchased by an innkeeper from Bethlehem. So that when Christ was born and there was no room for him in the inn, Christ was placed into this feeding trough. The second tree didn't end up being a large ship, it just ended up being a small fishing vessel. And it was purchased by a man by the name of Simon Peter. And one day, when there was a huge crowd pressing in upon Jesus, Jesus stepped into this boat. And the boat became a pulpit where Jesus was able to proclaim the truths about life. The third tree became a symbol of torture. It was fashioned into an executioner's cross. And on that cross, Jesus was hung, where he suffered and died. But that cross, made from that tree, became the symbol of salvation and the symbol of life, the symbol of the love of God. All 3 of these trees were humbled. But by God's grace, they were exalted. And my beloved, that's how it works. It's only when we humble ourselves that then God can take us and do great things with us. Greater things than we could ever begin to imagine. Humility is the key. It's the greatest of all the virtues. And if you want to serve the church, and if you want to serve others, and if you want to have a Christ-like spirit, then you've got to have this spirit of humility and check your ego at the door. You know, it's just too good not to be true. Amen?